Tonight, the Supreme Court weighs in on Donald Trump. The unanimous decision, the nation's highest court deciding Colorado cannot keep Trump off the ballot, saying this is not up to the states. Terry Moran live at the Supreme Court. The new winter storm warnings at this hour after more than 10 feet of snow in some places and a recording of wind gusts 190 miles per hour. The new storm now set to hit tonight and where it's headed. Faith Abubey in the storm zone. Tonight, the images here, the major fires burning, about 500 homes now gone. Families with no place to go. Mireya Villarreal in Texas. It's been nearly 10 years, the jet that vanished without a trace. Tonight, the new turn, families hoping for answers. Donald Trump's former CFO Allen Weisselberg pleading guilty to perjury. Headed back to Rikers now to serve time again. Tonight, the Massachusetts Air National Guard member pleading guilty to leaking classified documents, sentenced to 16 years in prison. Tonight, the Biden administration increasing the pressure for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. What Vice President Kamala Harris said today, meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu's rival. In the U.S., the first over-the-counter birth control pill sold without a prescription. College basketball superstar Caitlin Clark making history. You'll see the moment now beating the all-time men's scoring record, too. And the tearful goodbye today from beloved Philadelphia Eagles star Jason Kelce, breaking down in tears what he said about retiring from football, that famous moment cheering on his brother Travis, and what he said about Philadelphia.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and it's great to start another week with all of you at home. We do begin tonight with this historic ruling by the Supreme Court, deciding Colorado's highest court cannot take Donald Trump off the ballot. In a unanimous decision, the justices finding individual states cannot invoke the 14th Amendment to keep Trump off the ballot, delivering blows to at least 3 states, Colorado, Illinois, and Maine. The court saying it's up to Congress. Trump celebrating today's victory, praising the court for working hard and quickly, in his words. But the court is not done weighing in on key issues that will affect the race for president. In just a few weeks, they will hear arguments over former President Trump's claim of absolute immunity in the federal election interference case against him. In today's ruling, the justice is not discussing whether Trump took part in an insurrection on January 6th. And while the decision was unanimous, some of the justices made their differences clear. ABC's Terry Moran, who covers the Supreme Court, leading us off tonight.
For the Supreme Court, a rare moment of unanimity. All 9 justices, so often divided in major cases, declaring as one that individual states cannot ban Donald Trump from the presidential ballot under the insurrection clause of the Constitution's 14th Amendment. The court did not address the issue of whether Trump actually engaged in insurrection, but declared that the responsibility for enforcing that section of the Constitution rests with Congress and not the states.
They worked long, they worked hard, and frankly, they worked very quickly on something that will be spoken about 100 years from now and 200 years from now. Extremely important.
Courts in 3 states, Colorado, Maine, and Illinois, have ruled that Trump should be banned from the ballot because of his actions on January 6th and in the weeks before, under the 14th Amendment's command that no one who has taken an oath to support the Constitution and then engaged in insurrection can hold public office afterwards. During oral arguments last month, liberals and conservatives on the court voiced sharp skepticism of what Colorado did.
I think that the question that you have to confront is why a single state should decide who gets to be president of the United States.
Today, the justices pointed to the potential disruption that could happen if some states disqualified Trump and some did not, all using different standards and procedures. To disqualify insurrectionist candidates, the court ruled Congress must first pass a law spelling out how. But the court's 3 liberal justices, in a concurring opinion, said that goes too far. By saying only new legislation can address the issue, the conservatives, the liberals wrote, are attempting to shield the court itself and Donald Trump from future controversy. Adding sharply, the majority attempts to insulate all alleged insurrectionists from future challenges to their holding federal office. Justice Amy Coney Barrett also wrote separately, agreeing with the liberals that the majority went too far, but urging her colleagues to turn the national temperature down, not up. Our differences are far less important than our unanimity, Barrett wrote. All 9 justices agree on the outcome of this case. That is the message all Americans should take home.
So let's get right to Terry Moran. He's live at the court for us. And Terry, this unanimous ruling today, Justice Amy Coney Barrett, as you just reported there, suggested that the Supreme Court turn the national temperature down. But that might be impossible because the nation's highest court is now preparing to hear another case with potentially major consequences here in the race for president. Of course, Donald Trump appealed that lower court decision, that court saying Donald Trump does not have absolute immunity in this federal election interference January 6 case. The Supreme Court now agreeing to take up Trump's appeal and to decide on presidential immunity, which is major.
That's right. Really big, David. And that case is now set for argument at the end of April. So expect a decision in late May or June. And as all these cases grind on, tomorrow is Super Tuesday. Voters going to the poll in 15 states. And Donald Trump remains on the ballot in every one.
Terry Moran leading us off tonight. Terry, thank you. We should note, as Terry mentions, ABC News will have live coverage of Super Tuesday tomorrow night. 15 states voting, but a much different year, of course. Where this race stands, and if it is, in fact, President Biden facing off against Donald Trump, where this race stands right now in the battlegrounds. What would happen if the election were now? What about these court cases? Will they play out before the election? We're going to try to answer all of your questions, including tomorrow night's results and any surprises. Tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on ABC. Again, thanks to Terry. We move on to the other news tonight and this new winter storm brewing. Winter storm warnings up already at this hour. Several states will get hit. And take a look at this. It comes after heavy snow across multiple states, more than 10 feet of snow falling in parts of the Sierra Nevada mountains, and a recording of wind gusts 190 miles per hour. Snow blocking mountain roads, stranding drivers, in fact, for hours. Interstate 80 closed for days. We have just learned it has reopened, and now this new storm set to hit. ABC's Faith Abubey in the storm zone again tonight for us.
Tonight, after enduring multiple days of blizzard conditions, communities in the Sierra Nevada mountains now bracing for another winter storm. More than 10 feet of snow in some areas already. One Lake Tahoe ski resort reporting a wind gust of 190 miles per hour during the storm's height. The blizzard shutting down more than 70 miles of Interstate 80 for days. We were with California Highway Patrol Sergeant Eric Strecker this weekend as he checked on stranded drivers.
You want me to give you a little nudge?
Watch as he uses his cruiser to push this car out of that snowbank.
Should be out there.
In the blinding snow and wind over Donner Summit Friday night, first responders going vehicle to vehicle, rescuing more than 200 drivers, including a mother and her newborn baby.
We ended up getting her car jump started, but realized she still doesn't have enough fuel. So at that point, we just elected to transport her and the baby off of the mountain down to a warming center.
The crucial interstate finally reopening today. And David, winter storm warnings remain in effect for parts of Northern California until early Wednesday as families and communities continue to dig out from this storm. Several additional feet of snow forecast for some areas as the system moves from California to Colorado. David.
All right, Faith, you've been a really good sport about this night after night in the storm for us, and we appreciate it. Meantime, tonight, the harrowing images coming in, the deadly fires burning across the Texas Panhandle tonight. About 500 homes are now gone. Families left with no place to go. More than 1 million acres now destroyed. ABC's Mireya Villarreal in Texas tonight.
Tonight, a new wildfire triggering the evacuation of another town in the Texas Panhandle as firefighters race to contain the largest fire in state history that has killed 2 people and destroyed hundreds of homes. Officials temporarily evacuating Sanford, Texas Sunday. Crews battling wind-fueled flames from the ground and in the air. 5 wildfires scorching more than 1 million acres, hitting cattle ranchers hard.
So far today,
Shay Mesner owns the Bait Shack in Fritch, Texas, helping coordinate hay donations from around the state. Authorities estimating thousands of cattle have been killed, potentially impacting the nation's beef supply.
And those cows need to eat.
Over 1 million acres is burned. There is no grass on the ground for them to eat. So hay is of dire importance.
If you don't get the hay to the livestock, what happens here?
The meat market dies.
And tonight, word of the first lawsuit, a woman suing power company Xcel saying a wooden pole Xcel failed to properly inspect snapped off at its base, adding powered utility lines hit the ground, igniting a fire. Xcel responding to that lawsuit, saying they are working to support the Panhandle, adding there has been no official determination of cause or causes for the fires, and investigations are ongoing. And tonight, back in Fritsch, the community rallying to help those struggling.
This is our town. This is where we live. These are the people that we bump shoulders with every day. If we don't stick together as a town, who's going to do it?
David, firefighters are trying to take advantage of the temperatures here in the Panhandle. We've got cooler temperatures and light winds through Wednesday, and we're also looking at a chance of rain later on during the week. David?
Let's hope it helps. Mireya, thank you. In New York City tonight, Donald Trump's former CFO, Allen Weisselberg, pleading guilty to perjury. He now heads back to Rikers to serve time again. Here's Aaron Katersky.
For almost 50 years, Allen Weisselberg was a trusted lieutenant of the Trump family. Tonight, for a second time, that loyalty is sending him to jail. Weisselberg pleaded guilty to perjury, admitting he lied during the New York Attorney General's investigation and trial of his former boss. The 76-year-old Weisselberg came to court today in handcuffs. He was released until April 10th, when he'll be sentenced to 5 months in jail.
How do you feel?
Weisselberg has already served time for evading taxes on benefits he received as chief financial officer of the Trump Organization. This time, he lied about his role in affirming the size of Trump's Fifth Avenue penthouse. Trump's financial statement said it's 30,000 square feet, but the Attorney General showed Trump's signature on a document certifying it's a third that size, 11,000 square feet. That false valuation is part of the reason Trump was held liable for fraud and ordered to pay a nearly $500 million civil penalty. Weisselberg did not implicate Trump. He left the Trump Organization last year with a $2 million severance.
The Trump campaign said Weisselberg fell victim to a crusade of vindictive and oppressive pressure by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. But David, prosecutors said it is a crime to lie in depositions or at trial, plain and simple. David?
Aaron Katersky. Aaron, thank you. Tonight, the Massachusetts Air National Guard member who pleaded guilty to leaking classified documents has been sentenced to 16 years in prison. In a deal with prosecutors, Jack Teixiera admitting to illegally collecting and posting classified material online, including detailed information about the war in Ukraine. He did smile at his father before being led out of that courtroom today. It's been nearly 10 years since the disappearance of that passenger jet MH370, the jet vanishing without a trace. 239 people on board. Tonight, an American company now says it wants to launch a new operation to find it. Here's Gio Benitez.
Nearly 10 years after Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 mysteriously vanished from radar and plunged into the Indian Ocean, some of the victims' families hope they could finally get answers.
It's what we wanted to hear, and we hoped for that for a very long time.
The Malaysian government says it may relaunch the search for the wreckage after a proposal from the American seabed exploration company Ocean Infinity.
If there are compelling case, evidence that need to be reopened, we will certainly be happy to reopen.
MH370 took off from Kuala Lumpur with 239 people on board. But the plane made a U-turn and disappeared. Pieces of wreckage later washed up on Reunion Island and off Tanzania. But despite the biggest search in aviation history, the crash site was never found. Ocean Infinity last searched in 2018.
This private company has information that they think has refined the search area, and they think that it's worth going back out and looking in this new area which was not explored before. We don't know what that information is. We don't know if it's legitimate information. They will probably only tell the Malaysian government.
And David, we still don't know what caused the crash, but a leading theory is that it was the intentional act of a pilot or someone else on board. David.
Hard to believe it's been 10 years. Gio, thank you. Tonight, the Biden administration increasing the pressure on Israel for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. What Vice President Kamala Harris said today, meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu's rival. Here's Tom Sufi-Burge in Israel.
Tonight, amid growing desperation in Gaza, the U.S. stepping up calls for a ceasefire. Vice President Kamala Harris meeting with a member of Israel's war cabinet with a pointed message. Time is running out to free more hostages. And calling on Hamas to accept the terms of an immediate 6-week ceasefire. The deadline is the end of this week.
We're in a window of time right now where we can actually get a hostage deal done. We all want this conflict to end as soon as possible, and how it does matters.
The push for a deal comes as the UN sets out clear and convincing evidence of sexual violence by Hamas militants during the October 7th attack. In a new report, the UN calling for a full investigation, saying hostages in Gaza were also sexually assaulted. The findings released while the US, Egypt and Qatar tell Israel it must allow more aid into the Strip. The US airdropping 38,000 ready-to-eat meals into Gaza this weekend. But the UN warning 500,000 people are on the brink of famine. One Gaza hospital saying 16 children have now died because of malnutrition, with UNICEF warning that number could quickly spiral.
We are seeing children die because of malnutrition, because of dehydration, and we will see those numbers skyrocket without a ceasefire.
And David, Israel not sending its negotiating team to Egypt for the latest round of talks, so no sign of a breakthrough. The unofficial deadline, the start of Ramadan, is in just 5 days' time. David?
Tom Sufi Burridge in Tel Aviv. Tom, thanks. When we come back here, the new over-the-counter birth control pill here in the U.S. Also, Jason Kelce's very emotional goodbye today. And traffic coming to a halt on an American highway. Look at this. A few police sources apparently had a mind of their own. In a moment. Next tonight, the first over-the-counter birth control pill in the U.S., O-Pill, will be sold at pharmacies across the country in weeks. It'll be available without a prescription. An historic move to protect abortion rights in France. Lawmakers there overwhelmingly approving a measure making abortion access a constitutionally protected right in that country. President Emmanuel Macron had promised this after the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. When we come back, the horses halting traffic on that highway. Caitlin Clark beats the men, too, and Jason Kelce and that tearful goodbye today. To the index and the police horses halting traffic on I-90 in Cleveland. Look at this, galloping against traffic for a time, weaving between vehicles as well. They got loose from their stables and headed straight for I-90. Officers eventually rounding them up. And Iowa's Caitlin Clark beating the men's record now, too.
This for college basketball history.
It was something. This was the shot that did it. Her last college home game. She already beat the women's record, of course, for scoring. Now she's beaten the men's record. She's going pro. When we come back tonight, football star Jason Kelce and his very tearful goodbye today. Finally tonight here, Philadelphia Eagles star Jason Kelce struggling to find the words to say goodbye. He is the star Philadelphia Eagles center.
Great job, Jason Kelce.
Considered by some to be one of the greatest centers in NFL history, Jason Kelce. Tonight here, his emotional announcement that he is retiring.
I announce that I am retiring. Where I announce I am retiring from the NFL after 13 seasons with the Philadelphia Eagles.
The one-time Super Bowl champ coming before the cameras today, wiping away tears.
I have been the underdog my entire career, and I mean this when I say it. I wish I still was. Few things gave me more joy than proving someone wrong.
Thanking his team, his coaches who believed in him, even those early in his career.
I heard trade rumors galore and speculation I'd be cut. I imagine if the Eagles had received a trade offer for a brand new set of washing machines, they may have pulled the trigger. Hell, if I was in charge, I would have pulled the trigger.
His parents, his brother, Kansas City Chiefs star player Travis Kelce, right there sitting in the front row.
I like to think I got my toughness, aggression, and lunch pail mentality from my father. And from my mother, I learned the all too important lesson of never letting anyone tell you what you can't do.
The brothers facing off at the Super Bowl back in 2023. And of course, that moment just this past season, Jason cheering on Travis at the AFC playoff game against the Buffalo Bills.
Oh, there's his brother. Says right on. That's Jason.
There is no chance I'd be here without the bond Travis and I share. It made me stronger, tougher, smarter, and taught me the values of cooperation, loyalty, patience, and understanding.
Tonight, Jason Kelce saying farewell to the fans and to his second home, Philadelphia, where he played all 13 seasons.
It has always been a goal of mine to play my whole career in one city. And I couldn't have dreamt a better one and a better fit if I tried.
What a great story for all the underdogs out there. What a day. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Muir, America's most watched newscast.